all right, we got to get after some fantasy faves at the quarterback position. Largely, this wasn't the most exciting quarterback draft. Not a whole lot of depth of talent. Of course, everybody has been talking endlessly, ceaselessly until they've run out of air about Shedeur Sanders and that general saga, and we're getting to that here in a second. But there are a couple of fantasy winners, so to speak, and let's start off with the number one overall pick, a guy that really didn't get his flowers, didn't get the spotlight, deserved a heck of a lot more of it because he was a number one overall stick and pick for a reason, and that being Cam Ward of the Tennessee Titans. Titans, obviously, the Will Levis experience lasts for a whopping year. That's what you get for putting mayo in your coffee. And a guy that just looked lousy often. He was not the future of that franchise. Going to be a backup likely for the rest of his NFL career. Cam Ward, though, a pretty special player. And I want to get your general thoughts. Let me give you the Mike Clay projection. And bravo to Mike Clay. A slow clap to him. He's already getting projections out there at ESPN. Give us something to talk about. And he's got him forecasted for 227.9 pass yards per game, 20 passing touchdowns in total, 13 INTs in total, 265 rush yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Got him a quarterback 25. And again, Clay doesn't project players for all 17 games played. He always works in a couple of games missed. So you think that is a fair perspective on Cam Ward? What are your thoughts on him from a general football perspective, and more importantly for our listeners out there, a fantasy football perspective?
Yeah, I mean, Clay's one of the best, and for a reason. I think that projection is spot on. Like, if you had me predict the stats, I would say that's about where I would go, man, about 20 to 22 touchdown passes. I do think he's going to throw double-digit interceptions. I'm not comparing him to Will Levis, but like Will Levis, he never really knows when to let a play die, right? Like, so he's going to be hunting the big play, can make all the big throws. You look at the offense, don't necessarily love the weapons, but they do got some pieces. Tony Pollard had a bounce back year after not such a great season in Dallas as the every down back. You still have Tajay Spears there. You have Kelvin Ridley. They bring in Tyler Lockett. You have Treylon Burks, which we'll see what happens with him. But I think 22 touchdowns, probably anywhere quarterback 18 to 20. His rookie year sounds reasonable for Cam Ward. I do like the player. He's kind of got that sidearm throw. He can make some big throws, like I said, but I do think that there's going to be some interceptions, probably some boneheaded decisions and some bad weeks. But I do like Cam Ward. Definitely the best out of this draft, which isn't saying a whole lot. But I think Clay's projections are about right on, Brad.
Yeah, I really think they're accurate, too. I think you're looking at max, probably 23 passing touchdowns. You throw in a couple of rushing, 25 in totality, right? He's not a guy that really makes plays with his legs. He's more of a definition of an opportunistic runner. But you look at the competitiveness that he possesses, it's off the charts. I mean, the guy was a 0-star recruit, for crying out loud. So he's fought his entire career to prove people wrong, and I think he's going to do more of the same with the Tennessee Titans. He's got good zip on a lot of those over-the-middle throws, so in the intermediate field, and that's going to work well with some established weapons, as you mentioned there, and Calvin Ridley and Tyler Lockett, and I like Chig Okonkwo as well, who can do some of that dirty work underneath. He was number 10 among all FBS quarterbacks in adjusted completion percentage last year, number 3 according to Pro Football Focus in big-time throw rate, and number 15 in total air yards. So a fine quarterback, too. Nice backup to have if you're in a super flex league. Maybe you go the extra dollar, especially if you got a keeper element to it. I like Cam Ward. And again, I think the floor is probably 18 passing touchdowns. The ceiling is 25. And I think he's going to wind up in that 22 to 25 range in total touchdowns with a couple rushing scores as well. Let's go to Jackson Dart, a guy the Giants trade up for late in the first round to acquire his services. Cashing us a ticket because we have him going as the second quarterback off the draft at plus 200. Mike Clay now in only 11 starts for Jackson Dart is kind of projected for 217.3 pass yards per game, 13 total passing touchdowns, 10 total INTs, 227 rush yards, and a pair of rushing touchdowns. So using that as kind of a baseline measurement, what are your thoughts on Jackson Dart from a reality perspective and, of course, as well from a fantasy football point of view?
Yeah, again, I think those projections sound about right, man, right? I could see the interceptions. Maybe if he does get out there for double-digit games, 11 games, and make 11 starts, maybe He doesn't throw double-digit picks if he plays within the Brian Daboll offense. I love that backfield now after the draft. Malik Neighbors probably only gets better a year or two. They have some pieces, man. I'm hoping that we see Jackson Dart because Russell Wilson most likely starts the season. You do have Jameis, but the Giants are going to be fun, mainly because of the defensive side of the ball. That might be a top 3 defensive line. That could be the best defense in the league, as crazy as it sounds, man. But he was the highest graded passer in this class. Very accurate downfield. He could make all the throws. He could play within an offense. We saw him do it at Ole Miss. And he's a pretty good athlete as well, man. He's kind of like a daredevil out there. Doesn't really know when to slide. Doesn't really know when to get out of bounds, take some big hits, but I do think he'll use his legs. So if he gets out there, I think he'll be a decent fantasy option. But I just don't know if we see him this season. Do like what the Giants did, though, giving up 2 third-round picks for him. So I'm hoping that we get to see Jackson Dart, but I think Clay's projections, 11 games, sound about right.
Yeah, we're going to see it for sure. There's no question in my mind. I think Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston are going to coddle him, bring him along, show him the ropes as veterans. And then eventually they're going to have to step aside because the Giants are going to be bad. You think their defense is much improved, and that may be the case. But you're looking at maybe, 6, 7 wins? Probably not going to be a playoff team. So they're going to have to evaluate. They got to see what they have in this rookie they trade up for. Lively arm, mobile guy as well. A lot of excellent pocket poise. He was number 6 in adjusted completion percentage last season, number 2 in big time throw rate, number 8 in total air yards. Got Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, his little water bug underneath. Possession receiver they can rely on. And Darius Slayton makes the occasional splashy play beyond 20 yards. But, yeah, Dart will have some value in quarterback 2 league superflex leagues. In a 14-team or deeper format. Outside of that, he'll be largely rubbish on the waiver wire in 12-team single quarterback leagues for much of the season. Let's go to Tyler Shaw of the New Orleans Saints. I think a bit of a surprise that they went with Shaw instead of maybe Shedeur Sanders or even a Jalen Milroe. Shaw, Mike Clay's kind of projected for 3 games this season. Starting for the Saints, 244.7 pass yards per game, 4 passing touchdowns, 2 INTs, only 37 total rushing yards. What are your general feelings on Shaw? What is the ceiling? And is the floor extraordinarily low?
Yeah, man, that's a great question, right? Because he's 25 years old. He's had multiple injuries at the college level. He does have the arm talent. He can make the throws. He's a smart quarterback. So I think in the right system, let's say Kellen Moore is a hit. I think he could be like a poor man's Kirk Cousins. Where he struggles is he's really bad under pressure. So that kind of reminds you of Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff. And obviously you worry a little bit about the age. He's like my age. He's 25 years old, man. He backed up Justin Herbert, which is crazy to say, but he did in college. Wow. But that's the worry. Does he see the field? And when he is out there, especially if he's playing behind a bad offensive line, I think he could turn the ball over a ton. It could be sloppy, but he can make the throws, man. He's just got to be in the right offense. So I'd say poor man's Drew Brees, poor man's Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins type quarterback. But in that offense with those weapons, I don't know if it's going to be any good if we do see him this season.
Now, I think you're forgetting maybe 2 to 5 additional poor. It could be like a poor man's Drew Brees in that case. All right, let's go to Shedeur Sanders.
Very broke.
Everybody's talking about him, but very few are talking about him from a gaming perspective. Mike Clay's kind of projected for 3 starts this season. 232.7 pass yards per game, 3 touchdowns in total, 3 INTs in total, and only 54 rush yards. Is that a fair projection? Does he even start a single game?
So that's a great question, right? Because I keep going back and forth on this, man. He was a 5th-round pick. So I would say it's Shedeur Sanders. They don't have a quarterback. Kind of like when you think about it, what they're doing might be genius because they're going to get their quarterback next year most likely. So, hey, let's see what we got in this kid and in Kenny
Dylan
Pickett
Gabriel.
And Dylan. But so that's what I wonder. You can't really cut Dylan Gabriel. He was a 3rd-round pick. So 5th-round pick, that tells me Shedeur might be a practice squad player and Dylan Gabriel's on the active roster. Unless you're going to put Dylan Gabriel on the practice squad. Because I don't know how many quarterbacks they keep, man. Right? You have Kenny Pickett. You have Joe Flacco. I'm assuming he's the starter week 1. So I think Clay's projections sound about right. But I would worry, is he even on the roster? Is he a practice squad player?
Yeah, I totally agree, and I don't know if he's going to survive the roster because of the circus, right?
Yeah.
The headache, the baggage that he brings, and all the rumors that are flying out. Nothing really corroborated, just outside of I mean, during the interview process, allegedly he was on his phone on a FaceTime call with a buddy and didn't get off. Was just
Right.
clowning around in the middle of an interview with front office people that are trying to evaluate him, and as a result, poof, there goes all the millions of dollars that you might have gotten as a first round pick instead if you fell the fifth round. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to be in the NFL for long because people will not deal with the antics. If he checks the ego at the door, great. I think he'll have a new lease on life, and he'll have plenty of leeway to earn a spot on the franchise and maybe get a shot down the road. I just don't see it right now. He's got to get his head checked. So